Welcome to our special series on women in the marine world. In these podcasts, you will hear from women who are involved in science or the exploration of the ocean, about their experiences and their messages for the future. On this occasion, we have also collected questions from the younger generation and have asked our guests to answer them. And if your curiosity has been piqued, then head onto our website and send us your question. We'll pass them on to the team and get them answered. We hope you enjoy the stories from all of these amazing women doing great things.
My name is Meike Vogt. I'm a Swiss and German national, currently working in Switzerland. I'm a senior researcher at ETH Zurich and a marine ecosystem modeler. In my work, I try to understand the link between plankton community structure and their function in the environment, with a focus on global biogeochemical cycles. What my work entails, well, I mostly sit in front of my computer, trying to understand patterns in either models or observations. I collect and analyze data on marine plankton distributions and biomass, and I try to understand who is where and why in the environment and how that might matter for global biogeochemical cycles. I also sometimes run climate models to simulate the response of marine ecosystems to climate change. Apart from that, I write proposals, I read papers, I teach students, and I'm also involved in a range of European Union projects such as AtlantECO. Why is my work important for the ocean? Well, if we know who is where and why, and whether or not they're important in the marine ecosystem, then hopefully we can select those portions of the marine ecosystem that we have to conserve. And hopefully we understand better how these systems provide the ecosystem services that they do provide today, and hopefully to also see how vulnerable they are to climate change if they are. So why did I choose to become a scientist? I'm actually not entirely sure. I consciously chose to become a scientist. I think the scientist was somehow inside me. I've always been curious about nature and I wanted to understand how it works. And I've also always been a critical individual who didn't want to just believe what she was told, but I wanted to derive my own conclusions from the fact in front of me. A role model that really influenced my decision to work in science was Corinne Le Quéré, my PhD advisor. Corinne is widely known for her impressive science on the carbon cycle, but she also has this extreme scientific integrity and this very humanistic view of people, including her staff. And she showed me that collaborative science is fun, and she saw me as a person and let me be myself, and also gave me the freedom to make my own mistakes. So this I really appreciated. So the hardest part related to my work is currently as a scientist, it's today's requirement to juggle many, many different projects and many tasks all at the same time. And sometimes life at work can get so busy that you end up just troubleshooting one thing after the other all day long. And also, I think I struggle with the requirements to be a scientist, but also a teacher, an entertainer, a movie maker, an outreach specialist. Today we have to be many things at the same time. The favorite thing about my work is the fact that I really get to work with the most interesting, inspiring people from all over the world. I think being in touch with people, working with people who have different opinions and background is really one of the things I treasure most in my work. The funniest things in science, they usually happen during conferences when you get to see the people whose papers you have read in person and to discover their lives as private people. For instance, you can end up at the summer school on a sledge with the famous climate scientist whose paper you've recently read and have them racing down a hill and laughing and being human, really. In my opinion, what changes would be needed in the scientific system to be more attractive to women. In my experience, we lose a lot of excellent women from science when they start founding families. And here I believe that an increased opportunity for job sharing and part-time work would help in retaining more women in science. I myself have worked part-time for the last 8 years. of my scientific career. And this has allowed me to combine work and a family at the same time. Affordable childcare obviously helps, as well as flexible working hours and home office, which we now realized with Corona that it actually does work and people are productive. What everyone could do to make things better so we have a more diverse, equitable, inclusive scientific workspace is first to be a tolerant and a good human being, and also to embrace the differences. It's obviously easiest to work with people that are similar to you, but does this really increase the productivity or the innovative capacity or even the creativity of your own team? So sometimes it's probably good to hire those people that are most different from you. If I had to give advice to a younger version of myself, I would tell myself that I shouldn't try so hard to meet everyone's and society's expectations, not to try and be the woman society wants me to be, but to rather be a bit forgiving about your weaknesses and just try, do your best with the skills and the character and the personality that you have. So this is a question from Gabrielle Trinidad da Silva from Brazil. And Gabrielle asks, in your opinion, how is the health of the Atlantic Ocean? Well, Gabrielle, I'd like to answer to you that I believe that the ocean is in a much better state of health than the terrestrial biosphere, because the oceans have been around for so long and the organisms dominating life in there have evolved over millions and sometimes billions of years. And I, as a scientist, I believe they will be there long after we have become extinct. So I would like to give you a hopeful statement is that we do have to worry about the ocean, but the ocean is incredibly resilient, incredibly old. And for me, it's whenever I study plankton ecosystems and I see how they've adapted to this very hostile environment that they live in, it makes me feel small and it gives me hope that they will be there long after us. And then I have a question from Ana Beatriz Nascimento dos Santos, who asks me whether I experience discrimination for being a woman and researching in this area. And there I'd like to tell you, Anna, I don't experience discrimination now as a senior researcher and also since my PhD, but I did experience discrimination in school. In fact, when I announced to my teachers that I wanted to study theoretical physics, my parents were cited into school and the teachers told my parents that I should really not study physics because then I'd be too well educated and I would never find a husband. Well, here I am 30 years or nearly 30 years later, and believe me, none of this worry materialized. So I think at a young age, society really tries to shape women into what it wants us to be. But scientists tend to be tolerant people. And in our field, there's as many women as men, at least at the PhD stage. So I have not felt this discrimination after my studies ended.
My name is Lisa Picatto, and I'm from Italy, from Turin in the north of Italy. And I'm currently based in Ghent, in Belgium. I'm a master's student. I'm studying IMBRSea, which stands for the International Master in Marine Biological Resources. It's an international master program. I think the peculiarity about it is that we get to go to a different university every semester. So the program lasts 2 years, and that means that we get to, if we're lucky, to go to at least 4 universities. For example, in my case, I've been to Belgium first at the University of Ghent, and then I've been to Bilbao at the University of the Basque Country. Then I've been to France. So I've been in Villefranche with the Sorbonne University, and now I'm back in Ghent for my thesis. So I've been going around a little bit. Why do I want to talk about this? Is because I think this master is definitely important for the ocean because, of course, it does train the future generation of marine scientists. So like the theoretical part is quite important, but also I think it's absolutely brilliant that it does train also the way that you address people and interact with them. Because if you travel so much and if you have to always be in contact with new people and new culture, you're just literally dropped in a place, and then you have to really figure out how people teach there, how's the reading material, how people mark you there. Like it's not the same everywhere. So I think it really develops some skills also that are really fundamental to then go out, have a job, and really be able to kind of get your point across and be able to collaborate with everyone else. For now, the way that I think what I've been doing for the ocean could impact us is that we founded an online platform that's called OLA, which is Ocean Literacy Agents. And we're trying to share what we know, so our journey, our love for science, and just kind of trying to bridge that gap between ocean and society. So bringing our ocean knowledge to the outer world. Why did I choose to become a scientist? I never really knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a pirate. I wanted to be an explorer. I loved animals, the outdoors. So I guess marine biology was kind of the next best thing. I really, really like exploring the outdoor. And I think in marine biology, I do love the subject, but also I just really, really like the exploration and just doing something good, like thinking, yes, I do my job. I do get some money out of it to live eventually. But while I do it, I'm trying to protect the ocean, reach out, really like communicate with people. So it does make me feel also good, like I'm doing something good to a certain extent. As for equal opportunities to men, for now, I think I've been quite lucky, actually. I had some very good opportunities and I have not felt discriminated in general. Yeah. But also, I do have to say that I left my home country to pursue this career. So I went first to Scotland to do my undergrad, and now I'm traveling quite a lot. And I'm also traveling, I guess, to universities who are, I want to say, quite progressive. I don't know if maybe staying in Italy, I would have had a different story. Thinking of my favorite thing about my work, I've always been a very restless kid, just in general, a very active person who maybe sometimes gets a bit bored of doing the same thing. So with marine sciences, I just love that you can do so much. There's just so many questions, so many topics that you can address. Even just in my short career as a student, I've done internships on whales and seagrass, and I've written my thesis on amphipods, and then you can look, at the genomics of it. You can look at the ecological issues. Everything implies everything else, everything is connected, but then you can really choose how you want to look at the question that you have. And also I love that you always have a question. Studying science really shapes the way you think, that you start to notice patterns even outside of your scientific domain. So I really like also this idea of the scientific thinking that really takes over and makes you become a bit of a more critical person. Thinking of a message for the future, what changes are needed in the scientific system to be more attractive to women in science? What can everyone do to make things better so that we have a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive scientific workspace? I really wanted to say so much, but I really think that these two questions come down to representation. It really does matter. Even when sometimes you do laboratories with kids and you ask, can you draw a scientist? It's usually an Einstein-looking old man with a lab coat and some chemical in their hands. But I think it really is important to show all kinds of people, like show lots of diversity in science, show women in science. I remember one of my first internship, I was doing this internship on a boat and the crew was all female. And for me, it was like, wow, it exists, it can happen. If you see it's happening, maybe it's always been happening, but if you don't know, then you just don't even think it's possible. So if you see it's happening, you see, someone is doing it and they're just like me, so I can do it too. So we have a student, Jules, from France, 7 years old, and they're asking, how do the plants in the ocean get there and grow? Okay, so that's a great question, because I'm actually doing my thesis on seagrass, so I can talk a lot about it. Basically, if you say plants, it's a bit of a wide spectrum, but in the ocean, we have algae, which are not plants. They can be really, really big, or they can be really, really tiny. So, for example, phytoplankton, and they're at the basis of everything in the ocean. But speaking of plants specifically, so we have seagrasses, which are the super cool plants, amazing. I love them so much. And they are terrestrial plants who evolved to go back to the ocean. So they're plants who once were on the earth and just said, you know what, we're going back to the ocean. You can look at ecology, you can look at genomics. These plants really evolved and adapt to be able to go back to the ocean from land and grow there. So they can grow fully submerged, fully underwater. Second one, among women and men scientists, which researcher is the most relevant? Wow, from Joao, I think it's pronounced, I'm sorry, Joao Pedro Firmino Canabarro, 10 to 12-year-old, Brazil. Oof. I think there's many, many, many important scientists. So many people think of Darwin as one of the founding fathers for, well, basically everything. So I might say that. I think specifically for marine biology, I want to say Cousteau also. But talking about women, also so many choices to make. I want to say also Sylvia Ard, because she's great, and I think she's really trying also to put her face out there and be there when there's conferences like UN panels. I think she's really showing that you can do science and you can discover new things, but you also, I think, have to take a stand and participate to change things then, because I think it's super important to go out, do science, discover new things, but also do what you can to preserve the things that you study, because they are in danger most of the times.
Greetings to all. I am Kogie Govender, working in the Science Engagement Program at the South African Environmental Observation Network, SAEON, which is a business unit of the National Research Foundation. I spent my early childhood admiring the different hues of the beautiful ocean and the ebb and flow of waves crashing against the rocks. I lived 200 meters away from the sea in a coastal town in KZN. We enjoyed the sea for recreational purposes, cultural activities, and a source of food. My community and I were never exposed to any knowledge about ocean science or careers in marine sciences. How do we bridge the gap between the knowledge produced by marine scientists to enable communities to be able to make decisions? We also find that learners that are from coastal communities, although they rely on a healthy ocean for livelihoods, do not pursue careers in ocean sciences because they have not been given opportunities to experience what these marine careers entail. As SAEON, together with the Department of Science and Innovation in South Africa, we piloted the All-Atlantic Blue Schools program in South Africa as part of the Anchor Joint Pilot Activities. The All-Atlantic Blue Schools workshop in South Africa started with introspection on how participants connect to the ocean. Thereafter, we focused on ocean literacy, which is defined as an understanding of the ocean's influence on you and your influence on the ocean to enhance ocean literacy in the formal education sector. Learners from coastal and inland schools researched ocean issues and presented their findings at the Blue Schools Symposium. Learners were also given opportunities for experiential learning by taking on the role of a marine scientist. The most favorite thing about my work is that through our NRF SAEON programs, we are making a difference in the lives of beneficiaries by working with beneficiaries from socio-economically disadvantaged backgrounds and giving them opportunities to conduct research in a marine environment, thereby creating a new generation of marine scientists. We have also created an e-learning portal for marine science that enables beneficiaries to gain insights into marine sciences. As we celebrate International Women's Day in 2023, we encourage women marine science researchers to co-design, co-engage, and co-deliver research so communities can make informed decisions. We also encourage businesses, NGOs, and government agencies to support ocean literacy and marine science education programs so that we inspire a new generation of women ocean leaders to promote sustainable management of our oceans. I have a question from Erin, 15 years old, from England. What is the one piece of advice you would give to younger women about what they can do for the environment and society? I sometimes feel confused about that. Well, Erin, you know that rising carbon emissions, land degradation, and anthropogenic activities are having unfavorable effects on our ecosystem and biodiversity. Young women like yourself often feel helpless as they feel that they do not have the resources to act. You need to work together with society to make a difference by taking on small projects. Join other organizations that are doing these environmental projects, or start your own environmental non-governmental organization. If you are passionate about making a difference to our environment, never let anyone or anything be an obstacle in your path.
We hope that you've enjoyed today's episode and look forward to seeing you next time. You can follow the AtlantECO project on our website on www.atlanteco.eu, and you can also find us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. All the links and information on the project and on today's episode is in the show notes. AtlantECO is a project funded under Horizon 2020, a European Union research and innovation programme